G'day punters, welcome back for episode number 3 of 2022 for the Punters Academy show. We've got John Walter from racingwatch.com.au. John, good morning.
Morning, mate. I didn't even know what we were up to. I can't even count to 3, so I just put it as what I think I put as February 14. So anyway, we'll get there.
Fair enough. So we had Randwick Saturday, John, and some competitive racing, certainly with 4 black type races on the program, with the easy winner, Think It Over in the Apollo, which we'll get to later on. I suppose starting off with the rail and the 5 metres, we sort of previewed on the Wednesday night or Thursday morning, whenever it was, that we did that pilot preview show, that we felt that the inside couple of lanes, 3 off or better, was probably the place to be, with the rail going out to the 5 metres, and that's pretty much the way it played, I thought. You would agree?
Yeah, pretty much. It was. I was still surprised it took them a couple of races to work out where to go, but much better than the week before at least. And I think, once you got sort of 4 or 5 off, it was a pretty fair track all round, which was pretty ideal for betting, I guess.
Yeah, in terms of position, it was a fair track, pretty much without doubt. Very little difference, if any. You could split hairs to say that the shoot was any difference to the course proper races this week. Course proper races, of course, races 2, 3 and 5, the balance of the program, and from the shoot. Played good to dead, despite a couple of showers and a bit of murk. They pretty much missed the rain and started off obviously with a firm track, and it got to that sort of good to dead racing service. Some good races there, some interesting results. Obviously the upset of Espiona and the light fingers from the stablemate there, but we'll get to that soon. Let's start off with race 1. Excuse me, 2-year-old open. We'll bring that up. Look, in terms of times, this is the slowest time race of the meeting. And the 2-year-olds so far this year haven't really been inspiring. And one of the questions we'll get to later talks about, whether or not we might have seen a slipper winner as yet. But look, in terms of ratings, the winner here, Mumbai Jewel, which got taken back from the gate.
I was just going to talk about that. That's obviously an optical illusion. It's not a length in front, but my greatest pet hate in racing is when you do this to a horse, and it's usually hard to overcome, especially in a short course race. So that adds a little bit of merit to the run of the winner, but it's a pretty scary form race, I would imagine.
Yeah, look, the winner was well supported, 15-2 into 11-2. There was an interesting betting move there on Metallicity, which was 7-4 out to 9-4. Started 11-4 to fair, so even easier. And we've got Sandpaper, which was a well-supported runner, also 9-1 into 13-2 there. John, do you want to take us through these runners?
Well, this is probably really important, and I was nearly going to bring the head up here, is that Mumbai Jewel's out the back, done not a lot, and as you saw, there's not much in a way of tempo. Like, they might have gone out a little bit above and come out a little bit below. This is pretty steady all around, and they definitely don't do anything crazy up the straight here. And what I want to note, to really put the query over the race above and beyond anything else, is the unlucky runners in behind. So I think this is Peacemaker or something. It's unlucky. The horse here, Miss Fabergé, goes for a run, gets checked out of it. It's really bunched here, which is really ugly, and it probably should have even been more so. And I'm not really taken with this horse, and it's probably strongest on the line after getting knocked over, Peacemaker. So it's a very scary race overall. Metallicity, obviously, the betting said, may not be at its best. Gay's horse, he's pretty much under pressure the whole way. It's just an ugly-looking 2-year-old race. And for mine, these are the two that found the best part. Mumbai certainly was the first one to find the best part of the track. And if it hadn't have been dragged back at the start, I'd just say it's not much good at all, because it's not strong at all late here. Like, it's probably nearly the weakest of the 4 across the line, which is scary all around.
Indeed. Look, one thing we didn't talk about was the pace shape of the race. It's minus two lengths to the 800 and minus 0.4 to the 600. These are comparisons against track and distance standards. So we've got below average pace to the 800. They did quicken up between the 8 and the 6 by 1.8 lengths. So an average pace by the time they got to the 600. But look, these are really nothing much, I don't think.
Well, look, like if you put all these horses in the same race next week, you'd expect a similar finish and probably a different result, most certainly.
Well, as you mentioned,
you could argue that Gage draws outside, Metallicity sits outside it, it could win. You could argue the Godolphin horse could win. You could argue these two horses could win. It's just a bit of a take turns, nothing race.
I agree. So moving on to race 2, the Highway. Look, they went out 4.7 lengths slow to the 800 and 3.5 slow to the 600. So below average tempo all round for the 1800 metre Highway. Highlights, which was pretty solid in the betting at around 9-2, has run to a new personal best on provisional ratings. Lord de Samino was steadied at the 250 when it got stopped in its tracks and made a bit of ground when it got clear, and the best last 200 sectional rating of the race. Not a great number, but certainly the best performance.
It's a bit of one of those horses just because of his racing pattern. He tends to do that over and over again.
Yeah, gets back
and his overall strike rate backs that up.
Indeed.
But this horse is actually, it's done this twice in a row, so it's set outside a tempo. Obviously here they're not going any gallop, and I don't think they really did the previous start either, but it's great that this horse is showing that early speed, can sit outside leader, which is, if you can sit outside leader, absorb any pressure in the race and kick off it and win, that's about as dominant as you can be in a race, and this horse has done that 2 in a row. So I don't see much upside to many of the horses behind. You'd sort of pretty much call them all one-pace creatures, I would imagine. But this fella, it's only a Highway, and where the heck does he go? But wherever he goes, you would expect him to be competitive in this sort of grade.
For sure. Anything else you want to say about the race, Sean? I think
not really. Like you say, all these horses, maybe Racketeering was getting quickly up Intrepid. It does nothing. There's nothing in the race that does anything. And most of these horses are going to race. You won't find this horse here. The horse of Ponsonby sort of looked like it was making ground. And it's very hard to tell what happens to it here, whether it runs into trouble or what. But it sort of loses its momentum, then gets going a bit late. But it's the only horse. And what was it called? Sorry, I should know that. Ponsonby's horse.
Socrates.
Socrates. It was the only horse in the race I could be a little bit forgiving of, but happy to move on to race 3.
Indeed. Okay, so we've got the 2400 metre 78 race, which is sort of a bit of an interesting race betting wise. They've gone out 9.7 lengths fast to the 800, 9.1 fast to the 600. So we've got a solid tempo in the race. Casino Kid, I think, having its first attempt at the 2400, if memory serves me correctly. Yep. Yes, it was a bit easy in the betting. It was, 15 to 8 out to 11 to 4. So Reece Jones may have missed the boat there. As we'll get to the race closer to the 800, it sort of gets, I think it's fortified up on its outside, and the other grey horse there back on the inside sort of ends up getting shuffled back and sort of misses the boat or misses the opportunity. I don't know whether it would have done anything anyway, but not a great ride by the apprentice.
I think you'll see this horse going back to a mile before you'll see it run over 2400 again.
Yeah, I'd say back in distance is the key for it. Winner was sold at around 7-2. In the betting, and I don't know what else you might want to say about these, John.
It was a horrendous race on paper, and I think the fast tempo, slow time home, pretty average overall time shows that these horses can't go much faster than this, and the winner's not legless. It's done a pretty good job. It's had a perfect run. Comes through up the inside. We'll probably fast forward this because not much happens. To get it over and done with, Peel's outside of which horse is this? Fun fact, he's got that many that seem the same, Bjorn, but it does something to get away from them. I think Greek Hero's a miler. I think this horse is a miler, and the rest of them are pretty average. So, I don't think you'll see either of these horses race at their best next start. After this, it'll probably really hurt them unless they have a freshen up or something like that. And the winner can go on to win something similar, but jeepers. Horrible race.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's was that its 23rd start, I think, Outlanders. Obviously going well, but that's
you'd say it's a midweek horse.
Well, I mean, that's what these races are, aren't they? Almost some of them. Yeah. Okay, so on to race 4, the 1,000 metre sprint. They've gone out 0.8 of a length slow to the 800. excuse me, 0.1 slow to the 600, so below average tempo for that first furlong, which you would expect anyway. By the time they got to the 600, it was sort of average pace in this race. Look, nothing really special here, I'd say, John. Delexo obviously got held up.
Really dangerous. I think you've got to keep your eye on the ball with these midway races, and definitely don't be treating them as anything near Saturday races, because I know this horse back to front. It's a 900-metre horse at best, open class, and for it to be winning on a Saturday is, it's pretty crazy. Obviously, Delexo was, probably a tragic. It was a bit of a weird ride. I thought he never looks to sort of angle. Maybe he thought the leader would kick and he'd trail it through, and he just never looks to get to the outside, McDonald, which I thought was quite strange. Obviously, it looks like it was a certainty beaten, but that this form again, like it's nearly country form, like it's nearly provincial form, and it's maybe Wednesday form for me.
Yeah, interesting. The betting, Capital Rain was easy, 6-4 out to 7-4, close to the 9-4 on the BSP, and the favourite was a solid 7-4 favourite. Did get to a better price on Top Sport late for people that might have wanted to back it. Certainly very unlucky, and we can argue and say that it should have won, and I don't think there's too many people that would doubt that. But these are a bit ordinary, and I do agree about Capital Rain being a 900-metre horse. I've got its best figure clearly over the 900 at Newcastle.
I think the win is the same, to be fair. Anyway,
Invincible Kiss.
Well, he just found the right spot, found every possible. Like that's why I'm worried about the form. I think, this is the only horse you could say could progress in anything, I think, but I don't know where it gets to. Maybe there's another midway that it can find of similar strength. But we're talking It's Hot, these sorts of Mabel, they're just city horses if they're city horses. So I just
midweek at best.
At midweek at best, and just very, very wary about treating midway form, even if they go back to, say, a strong open provincial race. I'd be very wary of treating this as city form.
Yeah, well, you're right about the winner. I mean, its best figure too was also 900 metres, and it was a Gosford. So, I think we probably throw these in the bin, don't we?
I'd be probably more inclined to be negative about them wherever they go from here rather than positive. That's it, and just be, like that horse was obviously a good thing, beat Delexo, and it's a nice horse, and you could treat it as a barrier trial, but you definitely just want to make sure that you're very careful about diving into it wherever it goes.
Indeed. Okay, so we'll move on to
funky race.
Race 5, yeah, indeed. So they went out 1.7 lengths slow to the 800, came home 2 lengths above, average tempo. Silent Agenda on my figures went to a narrow new peak, racing pretty well. And I suppose we can say that, there were decent sectional runs from all different sectional ratings, I suppose, from horses like Omudji. Yee was disappointing, I suppose. We can talk about that because we mentioned that horse last time on the show. John, it was sort of 7-4 out to 9-4. And
all these Waller horses, like, what do you do? I found the winner by act of God on value because I love when Joe Pride puts blinkers on them, and I love when he takes them off and puts them on. Like, takes them off at the start of the prep, waits till they're ready, then puts them on, especially with these horses that are pretty seasoned campaigners, and he's got a good handle on them. So when it was a decent price in an average-looking race, I sort of gravitated towards it. But at this stage, I'm not really happy with life. Like, you would have thought this horse needed every conceivable chance to win the race, and he's basically dug it out. It's got keen and over racing here. You can see it's expending energy. So at this point, I think it can't win. Like, it certainly can't hit the line. The Waller horses have had better runs, Yee and Wariri Falls, yet they don't do anything. It's just so hard to get a handle on these horses. They don't hold their form, and it's just worrying signs for me for anything. Canasta took 600 metres to cross. He stayed in the worst ground the whole way up the straight. He's held on for third. Like, what do you do with the horses out the back?
And Canasta really put the foot down between the 8 and the 6 too, so they quickened up about 3.9 lengths. So that was pretty obvious from watching the tape as well. Look, Savory, I thought, was solid in the betting, but disappointing. I mean, it's really just a Canterbury horse, isn't it?
Well, I think that's the thing, and the two runs that are probably not bad from back in the field, but I find it very hard to be too kind to them are Omudgy and Savoury, and Omudgy just can't draw a gate, so it keeps end up 20 often when it can probably settle in the first 4 or 5 easily if it draws a gate. It's obviously going well, but the whole race just scares me because the winner's quite dominant, and I don't know why. If that makes sense. Like, these horses really should have rounded the leaders up the way the race was run.
Yeah, fair call.
Look,
you can probably forgive Opacity. It lost a plate.
Yep.
It's still got potentially more to give, but it is definitely better suited, I think, on a genuine dead track or dead slow track. So I don't know.
Again, I think that as the carnival goes on, you'd much rather see those horses pop up, like you say, at Canterbury or something midweek rather than another Saturday race.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we've got the Southern Cross Stakes here. Lost and Running returned very heavily back to 11-4, 5-4, and started about evens if you factor in commission on Betfair. If you're paying full commission, that's one of yours for theirs. Embracer pulled up lame, 2 out of 5. This was the best time rating of the day. They've gone out 1.2 lengths slow to the 800, 1.9 to the 600, so just below average tempo, and really quickened up and ran good sectionals. In terms of the best race sectionals in the race, Law of Indices ran the best last 800, 600 and 400 rating, equal second best last 200 rating on the meeting, and that was also held by Superium in this race that closed off well. What else can we say? King of Sparta didn't seem to perform. Bit disappointing coming off that fast pace at the Gold Coast into a sort of a moderately run race here. What else, John?
Yeah, I marked this horse out wide. Law of Indices favourite on spec, hoping that they'd sort of push forward. But I think the stable did come out and say that they were going to ride in quiet, and they basically treated this as a second barrier trial. Going forward, Overpasses run well, but had a bit of a fitness edge on them and obviously controlled the tempo. These two horses, I think, are serious horses when they get to wherever they're getting to. I think that obviously had a really nice run in transit on Saturday, the winner, but to be that strong through the line with 61 over 1200 first up, this horse is flying, and obviously Law of Indices faced a mathematical impossibility to run them down, and if you treat it as a second barrier trial, it's on target for whatever race it's going for, whether that's a Doncaster or something, I'm not sure, but those two, I think they're top class, both of them.
Well, interestingly, Law of Indices resumed over the 1200 here. Last prep, its only run in Australia prior was in the Golden Eagle over the 1500. It consequently ran about 2.5 lengths worse on Saturday than that rating, so you would think it's definitely going to be better suited at 1400 to a mile. And if it strikes a slow track, I think we'll see this horse really come into its own.
Yeah, and the winner can obviously he's obviously gone to it, or at least held his form and maybe improved again as well, I think.
Yeah, on my figures, only about a length below its best figure.
Yeah.
Which I have in the at the end of last prep.
So he can probably bounce forward off that as
well.
Yeah,
I think so. I think it can go forward. Look, Standout, there's a bit of support for it too. It really wasn't suited at all and held up a bit there first up in the what was that? The Expressway,
yeah.
And it raced okay, and Superium sort of.
I think that's all he's got. I think
okay.
What we saw of Standout's all he's got, and I definitely think what we saw of Superium's all he's got, even though he ran quite well.
Yeah, very consistently rated horse, that Superium. So I think the last 5 runs on my figures are all within about half a length. So it's a consistent rating horse, but as you say, it probably needs an easier race to shine. Rock,
very hard horse to place.
Don't know what you say about Rock. I mean, it started 30-1. It wasn't in there, and King of Sparta. It was backing distance and 4 weeks off, but off that fast-paced win there at the coast, but it was perhaps a little bit disappointing there.
What was that race at the coast too, like really? And I think that was the race where we talked about Jamia, who was like drastically unlucky in that race. There wasn't much competition, even though they ran time. I think he just got found out class-wise yesterday.
Fair enough. Okay, so we'll move on to race 7, the Light Fingers, which was one of the races we previewed the other day, and thank God the favourite got rolled. I ended up laying it because it was just too short. I thought it would win, but not at that price for me. And the winner got out to terrific odds.
Can we talk about Jamia here again? Sure. It's a fallacy that it's in front here, but why is he looking over his shoulder and grabbing hold of it instead of just pushing forward into this position here and letting anything? They're going slow. You haven't even talked about the tempo yet, but this drives me insane. And he cops a check here from Espiona when it comes across and costs him even more. But arguably for a horse who could have been sitting where the Godolphin horse is here, it ends up 6-7 lengths further back and behind its main danger in Espiona. I'll let you talk about the race now, but I think it was a certainty beaten Jamia if it was given any sort of a ride.
Yeah, about 6 lengths off at the 800. In this tempo, there's minus 0.7 to the 800, minus 0.3 to the 600, so average tempo. Look, the winner was good late and ran some very good sectional ratings. In fact, ran the best last 200 rating on the day and ran second best last 400, which was also shared by 2 horses we mentioned in the previous race. Zuzarella was sort of travelling wide. Whether that made a big difference on the day, who knows, but certainly wouldn't be sacking it. It's gone okay. 4 moves ahead, sort of over race with the blinkers in front and wouldn't settle and pulled up with a slow, 52, I think. Slow recovery.
Yeah.
10 to 1 out to 12 to 1 Fangirl, 14 to 1 with Top Sport late, which got out to a good price. I think when we previewed this, John, we mentioned this horse and it was about 6 to 1 or something. 6 to 1, 13 to 2. This horse, so it really got out.
Yeah, well, it was one of the horses that was always going to be strong late. It was whether it could get into the race, and I think what surprises me or shows me that these horses are not suited at 1,200 metres, even though I think they're good class, is that they haven't run a super final section or anything like that here. They're all horses that were sort of building into their work, and the only sharp horse in the race was probably Jamia, and that's why she had her chance here to be a little bit sharp for these horses. But sort of Startontes, Fangirl, Espiona, Heresy, Zuzarella, all looking for probably a mile, if not further.
Well, with Jamia, we just talked about that before, but I mean, it sort of died on its run that last 100, and would it have made a difference had it been in that position where the Godolphin horse was?
I think it would have won big 2 myself, but I think it would have sprinted and held on rather than trying to. It's had to use its sprint to try and catch up with horses that are strong horses rather than being 2 or 3 in front of them. It was 2 or 3 behind them. I think it was a monster difference. But regardless, this horse going forward, all it's done is miss its opportunity. I'm just having a whinge. But it's just missed its opportunity to win a group race, whereas these 2, Heresy, Zuzarella, Startontes, I thought was good, sort of ran up their backsides and sort of hit a flat spot or something there and then came good late and even sort of hinged and a couple behind. Once they get even further past, 2,000 metres, they can probably run well. There's no doubt this is not going to be a huge form reference for all of these fillies races going forward. And it'll be interesting because, like you said, like the time wasn't anything flash, but I think the majority of these horses were basically having a barrier trial and they've all run well.
Yeah. The time was okay. I mean, it was slightly above standard, but as you say, I think that's a fair comment. And you can't sack the favourite off that. It could easily come out and blow.
Look at it here. Look at it through the line. Can't pull it up.
Yep.
It's no 1,200 metre horse, and it definitely was, if you backed it, disappointing because it was given a very nice run in transit. Bowman's ridden the winner like God after it's missed the start to sort of creep through, find the favourites back, but it's a very, very good horse to win it too. Like if you say which one's got more upside going up in distance, you can't say that $1.60 and $12 is right going to 1,400. I don't think. Like it'll be very interesting to see how the market's framed next time.
Well, I mean, Fangirl did run short price favourite in 2 of its last 3 starts prior to resuming. It ran evens and odds on, I think, from memory. In the whatever it was, there was one of the 3-year-old Carbine Club, and the other one.
You could easily see them putting up even money Espiona and $6-7 Fangirl again next start, though.
Well, you'd be backing the favourite, wouldn't you? For sure.
I wouldn't be. I'd be backing Fangirl again at $7 up in distance. Yeah, 100%. I don't think that. I think the winner is just as well suited up in trip, and I think it could very easily be underplayed. Like the market could be similar again, is what I'm saying, and I don't think it should be, because how could you make an excuse for the winner to beat Fangirl in that race?
Yeah, okay, just going off that one result, but
just going off that one run. Yeah,
we all know that races aren't decided on one race.
No,
but
I know,
look,
but I think
it's a head-to-head competition.
It's the first time they've clashed, and I don't think there's much between them on ability.
I think the favourite's a better horse, and I'll take the evens, and you can take the 6-1.
Beautiful.
Sandgate, and we'll see what happens.
Okay,
let's go into the Apollo Stakes, race 8. They've gone out 2.2 fast to the 800, sped up by the time they got to the 600, 5.2 fast, so above average tempo early, solid tempo at the 600. They've run decent time, and Think It Over just did a terrific job here. And look, in terms of a ratings horse, this horse is an absolute dream. It's sort of almost run within about a point at its last 6 or 7 runs for me, after I've normalised a few things, and it's just a terrific middle distance horse. And I think we've got a question later about it. I Am Superman, definitely in the used too much category.
Talk about what they're doing here. Like,
one leader,
in the race, sit outside it. You've got a fence that's off in the straight. You're going to get a walking tempo if you decide to just carve across and sit outside it. So why would you do this?
Between the 8 and the 600, it quickened up 3.7 lengths. So Tommy Berry, I think, might have had a brain snap there.
Yeah, and then Rachel obviously has another one to pour it up him again. But I just don't understand why, when you've got the opportunity to control a race from outside the lead, why wouldn't you? But they certainly put it on for Think It Over. But as you say, he's just the ultimate professional now.
Well, he is. I mean, and last preparation, as I said, I think was his best preparation in terms of consistency, without doubt. And the thing that surprised me more than anything, John, was the drift. 15-4 out to 13-2, before starting about 5-1, and very elegant, running 7-2. That surprised me.
Insanity, and she was actually a good run back towards one of the few horses that stayed hard fence pretty much in the straight, and I thought she did as much as you could ask of her. But like you say, that she was never going to be in the position that Think It Over was going to be in this race. Ice
Bath was attracted a bit of support, John. It ran a huge number between the 600 and the 200. Well, so huge, very big number. It was the best 600 to 200 split on the day. It's come back well.
And I think she's in the better part. Just taking that into account, I think she's come back well, but a little bit wary. She was in the better part compared to Very Elegant.
Yep.
This thing, a lot of them have come back. I didn't mind Duay's run. Sort of lost a bit of momentum, then picked it up, and then he basically sits up on it late. A lot of these horses have run well. I didn't. The funny part, watch She's Ideal the last 150 year. And she's probably looking for 2 mile, but she tacks on as well. I think most of the horses in this race are on target for wherever they're going. But
She's Ideal actually ran the best last 200 rating in the race. It only ranked 18th best on the day, but still certainly might be in for a decent prep once it gets to a suitable distance. Riadini sort of burnt plenty of petrol between the 8 and the 6. So it's obviously going to drive fitness out of that, and once it gets to a mile, we might see it being competitive again, I should say, in these types of races.
I honestly think that Riadini and Superman were the only 2 in the horses in the race not having a barrier trial. Obviously, this guy had a bit of a shorter break and had a better sort of racing position. That's how he races, and that he's capitalised on that. But it just looked like these guys were all out at Randwick barrier trials on a Thursday and forgot to be competitive. But I'd be worried about this guy measuring up to Group 1 form, but he can pick off these races, no problem.
Yeah, but it's I think it's a decent horse, John.
I think he is, but I think that was Christmas.
Yeah.
And I think the margins, Christmas.
Yeah, I think the margin was exacerbated for sure.
Yeah.
And it was a bit flattered because of that. But still, all you can do is turn up and win, and I'm quite happy as it was a result that I needed.
He's an ideal horse for somebody like you, especially because you can plug him in, and what he does is what he does. I mean, he does the same thing every time, so you'll know when he's sort of in trouble, or he's got to, really hit a new level or something. You'll know.
Indeed.
And I'll have to work it out.
On to race 9, what have we got? The Triscay. They've gone out 5.5 slow to the 800, and that's right, and 4.1 slow to the 600. So slow tempo to the 8 and below average by the time they got to the 600. Look, this horse is flying. Snap Dancer coming off that win in the Gold Coast. It was a bit easy that day actually at the Gold Coast when it won.
Well backed early week late, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was well backed early week late. There was another one in the race that was well supported. Was it Brookspire or something?
Yes, it was a horse.
Look,
big factor in this race were the two leaders were scratched, late scratched, because one went psycho and kicked the other, and that basically handed the race to the winner, I think. But still a good performance.
Yeah, Mirror Vision in the race was easy. It was 9-2 out to 7-1 and got to $10.50 on the fair. Bellucci Babe came in from 15-1 into 10-1, promised a success 10-1 to 13-2. But as you say, those configurations of some of those firms were affected.
Well, as it worked out too. So you've got the hard fit horse that finds the lead and controls the race. It's Me first up from a long break. They wanted to sit with Bellucci Babe. That doesn't come off. Everything's gone to plan if you were on Snap Dancer.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a fair way to look at this race. Fatus was pretty disappointing, beaten a long way, starting at about 6-1. So
they keep backing it. I don't know why.
Well, it's 1100 first up win last preparations in the toy show was a good figure, and then it sort of deteriorated. Second run deteriorated, third run deteriorated, fourth run, and then they spelled it. And it's first.
Everyone's searching for that figure to reappear.
Possibly,
yeah.
and it was Randwick, but this is 1200 meters. What does it need, John? I mean, is there any excuse for it?
Oh no, not for the margin. Not for the margin. If it's run any well at all, it would have. It's a turn of foot horse, and it would have been suited by a slow run race, and it would have finished, around the back of these horses here. If it ran well, it's done nothing basically. I think Promise of Success is completely unsuited in a sit sprint and back towards the inside as well. It can improve in a big field, pulled to the outside with tempo on.
Wonderbar, the Chris Lee's horse there.
Yep.
It resumed last preparation with a fairly ordinary performance. Admittedly, it did sort of pull up with some poor recovery there, but it'll be interesting to see if it can improve to its form as it did second up last prep in the toy show. Sorry, the Hot Danish. So you can't sack these horses, but
none of them. They can't go any faster than this, and that's the beauty of Snap Dancer. It's hard fit, can sustain a sprint, controlled tempo. That they were never going to catch it. It wasn't a possibility. So anything just behind, even It's Me's run really well, really, and that should be a perfect pipe opener for it off a long break. Is just to sprint up 3 furlongs, and even though she got a little bit tired there, she's entitled to.
Yeah, I think that's fair call.
This form should hold up, and even these horses back in the field, you can't sack them. I'd be treating, if they did anything, more profits, horses like this. If they did anything late, you would treat it as a barrier trial.
Well, outside the winner, More Profits last 200 was the best in the race. So yeah, he can win the right race. It probably needs
plenty of conditions to suit it.
Yeah, conditions to suit. I suppose once we get J-Mac on board or somebody like that, then we'll know that it's time for that. Race 10. Let's talk about the last race. They've gone out 2.6 lengths fast to the 800, 4.8 fast to the 600. So that's above average tempo. By the time they got to the 600, it was definitely a solid pace. This horse, Le Gay Soleil, has resumed here. Synthetic hoof filler was off. Blinkers were off in the trial, where it trialled like an absolute jet, and went back on for this race, and raced in a similar style there, and came with a good
interestingly run. Which was interesting to someone like yourself, is that basically this winner runs identical figures, or from the 800 anyway. Obviously, I think the last 200 Snap Dance is stronger, but from the last 800, they both run nearly identical figures. Maybe I'm wrong. Home. So even though this horse comes from second last and 10 off him, and the other one led on the fence, it shows how hard Snap Dancer was going to be to beat.
Oh yeah. Well, Snap Dancer's last 800 was about a length, length and a half or so better than the winner here, but still, this was a good performance. This was
that's what I'm saying. So it's interesting when you see 110 off and one lead, and they've run home similar sections. You can see why those horses didn't run on, and not knocking this horse's performance. It's completely dominant, and it looks like it completely knocks up too. It looks like it's basically gone with 100 to go. So she spent all the biscuits getting to the front, and not many horses did this, even with tempo to suit on the day.
Look, in a rating sense, it's gone to its as good as it can go. Overall time was a bit disappointing for mine, given the pace in the race. Mm-hmm. I thought they would have done better. Invinciano needs a very firm track, and I think that the job
needs to control too, doesn't it? It's a control freak, Invinciano.
She's all class. J-Mac was a kilo over, but didn't matter. Horse pulled up lame, 2 out of 5, and Princess Rihanna also had cardiac arrhythmia, as did True Detective. True Detective has to trial now. So,
and that puts it, like you say, the overall time, the tempo of the race, and the favourite, or one of the favourites, and the other probably fancied runner, if you got this sort of tempo and she's all class failing, does put a number of queries over the form of the race. Also, I don't think Invinciano was suited back in distance. I thought it was a pretty ordinary ride on True Detective, kicking him up early. I don't think he wants any further than this. Matau Takbi's Matau Takbi. The rest of them are all pretty steady. So while this horse is very flashy win, it'd want to improve to continue going up in grade.
Yeah, look, it's a good fresh horse, and the stable did a great job getting it ready, and planned it well, and it came off. And as you say, it was in a better part of the going. So I think it looked more impressive than it was.
And a bunch it's gone past with the favourite or one of the favourite runners failing. So there's a lot of warning signs over the race.
I think so. I think that's a fair comment. Let's talk about any other runners there, John, or we just go straight into some horses to follow.
I don't think there's any. This horse was first up from a break. Poetic Charms, they're all pretty much pack chasers that need everything to go their way to win. The winners, as you say, just a really dynamic, fresh horse, and when it gets conditions to suit. But other than that, no.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, so for me, horses to follow from the meeting: Lost and Running, I Am Superman, and Invinciano, providing it gets to a dry track.
Yeah, I'll say both of those horses, Lost and Running and Law of Indices, in that race. I think unfortunately they'll just clash, these fillies, so it's very hard to separate them. But Fangirl, Espiona, Heresy, the three I think are very interesting going forward out of the fillies race. The Apollo, it's just not. I hate it with a passion. Trying to decipher where the heck those horses are going to go, and I just worry about them when they all sort of plot in different races. But I think the fillies have all come back really nicely, and I honestly, I think that Lost and Running and Law of Indices are the two clear horses in the day that look like they're flying.
I think with law of indices, I might have mentioned that it will, I think, be better on a soft track.
Soft track and can race more forward. Yeah. It's got a lot of.
Okay, so that's the review from Saturday. We'll get straight into questions, I suppose, will we?
Questions. You want to do the question of the day first, or do you just want to let me know when you've got the question of the day coming up?
Yeah, I might do that. Actually.
Okay.
So look, these are a couple apologies that were left over from last week.
Do you want to talk about Top Sport first? The Mighty Top Sport?
We should talk about Mighty Top Sport. If you've got an account with Top Sport, well done. If you don't, you should have. They are betting, obviously, the minimums from the moment they go up. And when there's a black type race on the program, they will bet to lose $5,000 early and $10,000 late, $10,000 and $25,000 if there's a Group 1. And if it's a high grade Group 1, $20,000 and $50,000 plus best of the best and those other products that you'd expect. Look, we're not sort of saying that all corvettes are bad and Top Sport are great, but we are saying that Top Sport give you a fair go, and they are an account that you must have.
Agree.
So, John,
as fair as anyone, that's the one thing you can certainly say.
Yeah. Okay. So, first question this week. I don't actually have a name for it, John, but I've got a avatar on Twitter. But the question is Hey John.
Yeah.
Hey John. Question for the show. I was hoping to get your thoughts on an NBL issue we're having within the Northern Territory. As it stands, Northern Territory is the only state and territory without the NBL now that WA's come on board. And we are currently having some back and forth with the Northern Territory Racing Commission on why it should be introduced. The Commission has stated that they haven't received any formal complaints from punters, that racing is just a hobby thing in the Northern Territory, an increase in product fees back to the industry that should be taken into consideration. Don't really understand this is what he's saying. And overall, it's not detrimental to have NBLs introduced, which sort of seems contradictory as well. So, John, look, what do you say?
Well, I would, without getting myself arrested, I would say the Northern Territory are the most massaged jurisdiction in the country. They've been well massaged for a long time. They've been in favour of the corporates at every step of the way from the date the corporates landed there, and I believe that's why they were such a popular jurisdiction for so long. And I think that they are still remaining in that vein. That they've always, wanted to look after the corporates number one, and then everyone else number two, and they're sticking firm by that. But none of their, obviously, if that's their response, that it's a hobby thing, well, that's a joke. Increasing product fees, which I the same. I don't understand this at all, and that only turnover can only be a positive thing for the industry and product fees. So I don't understand how they have a leg to stand on by not introducing it.
Yep, I agree. I think all jurisdictions should have a NBL, and the NBLs really need to be revisited in terms of limits and also the way in which it's, I suppose, carved out for the corporates of different sizes. Bigger corporates should be made to bet more. Yeah,
that and scratchings are the two things that seem like they're, vital to be addressed.
Okay, next question from Manfred is, the 2-year-olds this year seem to be the most even in a long time. From what we've seen to date, who are the top 3 from a data point of view that we should look at from a slipper viewpoint? Well, I'm going to say, first of all, that we may not have seen the slipper winner. The 2-year-olds haven't been that great. People will probably point to Coolangatta and maybe Russian Conquest, those types of horses. Look, I think that Russian Conquest could be a little bit better than Coolangatta myself personally. But I think it's too early to call, and it's very likely that we haven't seen the winner yet. What do you think?
Yeah, I haven't seen a good 2-year-old for a long time, whether it's this year or previously. So I can't really say it, and I was just sort of talking to you previously about this. Like, for me to say that the winner of the English Millennium is the one to beat really scares me. It is a $2 million race. Maybe in time it'll become a decent lead up for the Slipper. But was that its grand final? Will it kick on? Will something else pop up? You'd expect, a number of runners have had setbacks. Obviously, horses, spruiky horses like Great Barrier Reef, Metallicity again on Saturday, pretty plain after a setback. Coolangatta is just a horse for mine. Russian Conquest is, there's not much between them. And I obviously liked it that day up at the Gold Coast, but I don't think it's any sort of standout 2-year-old. It's just a professional, and that's all you've seen. You've seen a number of professionals, which are probably some sort of black type level horses, but nothing dominant, nothing that you would rubber stamp as a slipper horse.
I think the Coolangatta and sorry, John.
You're right. No, I just was going back in time. I just think the 2-year-olds are getting worse and worse.
I think Russian Conquest and Coolangatta have probably got a couple of links on the Millennium winner, Extravagant Star.
Okay, that's interesting to know.
Well, that's just on 2 starts to date, though, for the Millennium winner. So it can improve for sure. It was 30 days off leading into that. I know it trialled, but it was only at the second start. So I would say it's got improvement. But, yeah, I don't think we've seen any superstars yet. That's a fair call, and I'm going to lean towards the fact that we haven't seen the winner as yet.
I would be the same with you. If I had to bet on it, I'd be betting we haven't seen it yet.
And look, that Dane also, the next question was, what's the current Golden Slipper pecking order? Historically, how do these horses coming off millions runs fare? Or who haven't debuted yet, which was Metallicity, which we've seen. Of course, that was a question from last week too, that we didn't get time for. Look, I think we've answered that and covered that, Dane.
Yeah, well, I just sort of, if I... 1 second. If I do this crudely and put up Top Sports Market, like Coolangatta hasn't been seen since the Magic Millions. Who knows if it'll get there? Like a slight little horse that looked like a greyhound that day. So, maybe they can put some sort of great recovery on it, get it back. Russian Conquest, obviously the same boat. Queen of the Ball won on that biased track, but I think the first and second or third of Snowden's came out and won on the weekend. And she gapped him there. But she's only a small horse. And you got English Millennium horse. Best of Bordeaux, I wouldn't take seriously. Sir Jardin beaten by that. Like, it's just, there's nothing special in any of these horses. And I think exactly what we said. Nothing stands out.
Long tail at the moment. So
there is, and you just I wouldn't be surprised if something jumped out of the pack. It's just, there's nothing there that you can say, yeah, that's the horse I want to be with.
And Les also asked a question pretty much on the same topic. Do you think the Golden Slipper winner is still possibly unraced? Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think everyone's searching. That's the thing. Like, it's the time of the year where you start trying to, line everything up and nothing lines up.
Okay, so the next question we've got here, John, I'm not sure who this is from either, but we've got a direct message here. Hi, John. Thanks for the informative Sydney meeting reviews the last couple of weeks. Although nearly all the field in the Apollo was first up and will improve over further, and horses like Saki haven't resumed yet, do you think it's now possible that Think It Over is the best middle distance horse in Australia, 1,400 to 2,000 metres? Well, look.
Depends how many drugs you smoked prior to it.
Look, Zaki is probably, well, not probably, its form is probably half a length to a length better, I think, than on a consistent basis than Think It Over. Its rating when it won the Hollingdale is probably a couple of lengths better than Think It Over, or two and a half lengths or so. Let's see what happens. I mean,
he's not even won a Group 1, has he? Oh, sorry, he won a Group 1 1,500. What was that, a rider or something? Or
no, it won the Doomben Cup, which was a Group 1 by 8 lengths.
Who's that? No, I'm talking about Think It Over.
I Think It Over did win.
He's won one Group 1 over 1,500 at Rose Hill at 25 to 1. One by a head. I would be very careful in saying I think it's just a Group 1 horse.
Look, I think it's a genuine, Group 2, Group 3 horse.
Yes.
Look, in terms of consistency, you think it overs right up there.
He's been extremely well placed and well managed, and he's raced extremely consistently, and he's a very good horse. But if he's our best horse over 1,400 to 2,000, we're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I'll definitely say no, but still a good horse.
Yeah, very good.
Okay. Simbot was asking, apparently the grass was kept long for the All Stakes meeting on Saturday.
I've been waiting all day to listen to you answer this, so if you've got an answer to this, this is great.
Does your database take into account when assessing a horse's performance the length of grass? Is there such a thing as horses are better or long or short-cut grass? Well, Simbot, too good you. But I will say, John, that the track speed is essentially the measure of how fast or slow a track race is on any given day. That's why it's so important. And obviously things like resistance, which is obviously going to be greater if the grass is longer, wind, moisture content, all those things get factored into track speed. So yes, there is an adjustment made, but yes, it doesn't break it down, and it's not specific to length of the cut of grass.
Grass length, no.
No. But I mean, look, that's good information to know as a punter. If you're betting into a particular jurisdiction or you focus on a particular jurisdiction, I do get some intel that helps with that type of thing. And, sometimes that the grass has been cut shorter.
That's huge. So when you get the Twitter guide, like the Twitter feeds for Randwick and I think Victoria do it as well. When you know that it's been a bit wet and they say, but it's okay and we can get the cutters on there, like we can get the mowers on there and give it a cut Friday. That's always a really good pointer that the track's most likely going to improve far more significantly.
Yeah, and also, if you want to know things like if they're verti draining the course as well, because that can have a big impact as well on those horses racing in that section.
Surely.
It does. Okay, John, I think it's probably time we get to the question of the week.
Hang on. Hold the phone. Here we go.
It is from Dean.
Top sport question of the week. Top sport.
Yeah, the Dean wins himself $100 cash into his Top Sport account, or he can take the cash. Is being able to price your own markets an essential skill to being successful full-time in horse racing? Well, I'm going to answer yes, it is, because you essentially, whether you're using ratings or you're pricing horses off feel and intuition, you are effectively producing a market that says this horse has this probability in this race or this chance, and you're weighing that up against market conditions in terms of what the prices are and what the betting action and price action might be around some of the other key runners, and you're making decisions on when you think it's a good time to bet. So yes, you are using price, and I do believe that's an essential skill. I think that there's nothing new in that. It's been around since, certainly since the Don Scup days, early doors when I learnt, and I haven't really done anything different in terms of pricing since then. The only algorithm I use is perhaps a little bit more aggressive to those runners at the top of the market or at the top of my market. People have different opinions on that, and also that does vary depending on field size and the type of race it is. But generally speaking, I'm a bit more aggressive towards those runners. But I think you've got to have a price, and you've got to know what you think is fair before you make decisions on taking any price on any runner. John, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think anyone who bets, pretty much at the end of the day, forms a market in their own mind, whether they know they're doing it or not. Obviously, some people come at that different ways than others, but really you're weighing up conditions of the day, whether that's track distance, jockeys, where the horse is going to be in the run, how you think the track's going to play, and then at the end of the day, you're trying to work out, the horse, how well set up are they? Will they improve, or will they go backwards from their last starts? You make all those calculations, whether you're going to do it or not, and at the end of that, you add them up and you try and decide who's got the best winning chance, and that's basically pricing a race, whether you know it or not, or you're doing it or not. That's exactly what you're doing. And if and it's probably, for me, putting numbers down makes it far easier to review your process and work out how well you're going at it, rather than just betting blindly. But I think everyone does it, whether it's subconsciously or not. And if you don't do it physically, I think it's something strong to work towards. Even if you don't do it for every race, but just races that you bet in. If you identify a race that you like enough to bet in, I think you should go the extra mile to price it up.
Yeah, and Dean, if you need any assistance in regards to putting together a market or how you should go about it or what steps you should take, happy if you want to contact me one-on-one. I'll walk you through what I do. There's no proprietary secret there, but it's just the way I go about it. So I think that was a great question and very pertinent. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. We've got here from Christopher. Apollo Stakes it is. Why do you think It Over drifted so much in the betting?
You've just thrown this in. You're Christopher. You just want to talk about Think It Over again.
No, it's definitely not me.
No, he's good. Good man, Christopher. I know him. He's okay. Why do you think? I can't work it out. I can't work out why. I can work out why I Am Superman firmed. I can't work out why Ice Bath firmed, and I can't work out why Think It Over drifted.
Yeah, I can't work out why Ice Bath firmed. I mean, I had it very, very much longer than the market, and I'm surprised it started sort of single figures. Very Elegant was not all that surprising to see it around the 7-2 mark.
But you expect it to be the soft one, right, of the two between it and Think It Over.
But you would expect it to be soft, first up, 1,400 metres coming off that Melbourne Cup 2-mile win. Think It Over being such a consistent horse in these types of races and being a good Randwick horse and sort of a
map
nice, all those sort of things. I mean, I just simply gave it its first up number, which, as I said, was pretty consistent throughout last prep, and it was marked at about a 2-to-1 chance. So I was very surprised. But you always do worry when you see that happen, especially when it's the first up runner.
Well, especially when you sort of, if you want to say that there's a few big players in the market that are controlling the final SP of runners, and more often than not, you would expect them to get it right, because otherwise, how do they continue to control the market? You would expect that they're pretty good at their job. So, but a horse that, like you say, maps well, consistent, has good first up numbers, no setbacks coming in. There were no real question marks over Think It Over and what he would do. So it does get a little bit scary when a horse like him drifts. I think, watching I Am Superman, it's a stable that obviously Stable Confidence is behind a lot of their large firmers. So you want to treat them with respect, even if you don't understand them, from the Snowden group, whereas Ice Bath just didn't make sense.
Yep, I think that's fair. And the second part of Christopher's question was, what on earth was Berry doing on I Am Superman? Riadini is always going to be ridden aggressive. I know the winner was soft late, but look where Superman finishes. Brain fade by Berry or dumb tactics? Well, I'm going to say brain fade because Tommy Berry's a good jockey.
I'm going to say he rode to his ability. No. So he's a good jockey. I just don't think he's a very good tactical jockey sometimes. I think he's a very good steerer of horses, sits on horses travel for him, but sometimes his tactics are a bit funky and he can get them wrong.
So, interestingly, John, how far would you put, say, Tommy Berry behind Nash in a rating sense? If you had to sort of...
There's not a horse in the world I would put Tommy on before Nash.
Okay.
And that's to me. So a horse that goes forward, a horse that gets back. It's very hard for me to put numbers on a horse, but just like, it's weird and it sounds silly, but if I picture a jockey riding a horse, that's kind of how, it's a strange thing. So it's completely field to me. And I think that Nash has got it over Tommy on leaders. I think he's got it over on him in a finish. He's stronger. I think he can get horses to settle naturally closer without pressuring them. I think he's more balanced, and so Nash ticks every box over Tommy for me.
Well, on my figures right now, there's 2 pounds difference between them.
Yeah.
So that's enough. That's enough to sort of,
have a clear edge.
Make a clear edge. If you got 2 horses at even money, then I'm going to say that if Nash is on one and Tommy Berry's on the other, then that 2 pound disadvantage is sort of going to make it something like, 6-4. Tommy Berry.
It's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's 10% there in the market, isn't there, in that situation?
I think he's overappreciated by the market, and that's without being derogatory towards him in any way, shape, or form. I think he's an overrated rider. And I think Nash is an underrated rider.
Yeah, look, well, Tommy Berry hasn't been going well recently in terms of his recent form. He's been losing greater than the market, but longer term, he sort of, I think you can do okay backing him in the right circumstance. Anyway.
He can win. He can win on anything. There's no doubt. He's got the ability. To me, he's a bit like Jason Collett, where he, when he looks good, he looks incredible.
Look, last question was from Stephen, who said Moody made a big deal about the race watering at Caulfield this weekend. That was Saturday. Was this sour grapes, or should we be paying close attention to this type of thing? Okay, I hate track watering.
On the day, or in general.
Or in general. I mean, obviously, you've got to water tracks at times, right? But leading up to a race meeting, I hate watering a track. And to water a track on race day, to me, is doing nothing more than doctoring it to produce a particular result. And it's going to obviously put more randomness in the results, which might suit some trainers or some horses. But look, to prepare tracks that are dead deliberately as a policy doesn't make good sense from a betting point of view, doesn't make good sense from a wagering turnover point of view. Punters bet more on drier tracks. That's a fact.
Yeah, and I saw some people carrying on saying it stopped it being a mad leader bias there, or again, and that leader fence tracks are bad for racing, and well,
no, they're bad for connections of horses who aren't going to be suited by those conditions.
I thought the track raced quite well, all things considered, but the fence was certainly off.
Yeah, but that happens a lot, doesn't it? It happens a lot.
It does. But I'd rather it be like that, knowing that they hadn't touched it, than that they have.
Yeah, the fact that they watered it on race day is not good. Is not good, and is not going to, do anything for the betting turnover or inspire confidence. So yeah, I think
the weird thing
he's got every reason to complain.
5 million punters can complain, and nothing I don't think really will ever happen. Moody will go off his head. He'll probably get a fine, but something might happen. So from his perspective, it's probably worthwhile.
Well, it's surprising that they upgraded the track from a 4 to a 3 after race 5. On our numbers, provisionally, it comes out 3.7, which is basically a dead 4. And, these tracks don't get better during the day, John. They get worse. Anyway, that's the show for this week, punters. In terms of previews, which we sort of did one last week, which we received a fair bit of positive feedback about, we've decided that we're going to do those on a regular basis and cover the Group 1 and Group 2 races that are held in New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland throughout the season. So we'll bring those shows to you. At this stage, it's anticipated that it would occur on a Thursday. In terms of the Melbourne content, we've got the assistance of a good man, Jason as a party, who you can find on Twitter.
Nailed that race the other day.
He did nail that race the other day.
Yeah,
2 chances.
Winner.
Tafani won the race there and got out to about $8, so it was a good price. Cinnamon obviously didn't perform, and I'm Thunderstruck clearly needed the run. And Behemoth, haven't read any stewards' reports about it yet. Was there any issue with it?
No, I don't think so. But it shows you that weight for age racing at different times of the year obviously become more competitive. But at the start of these seasons, often it's just completely tactical. It's nothing to do with the best horse winning a lot of the time. It's just about the right horse in the right spot that can, like the consistent horse that can do its certain things. It's very easy to over-analyse weight for age racing early in the season, I think.
Yeah, I think early seasons, especially so, because horses aren't wound up. It's not the Group 1 grand final. Some of these early Group 1s probably shouldn't be Group 1s. But anyway, that's another question or another debate. Thanks again, punters, for watching. Of course, you can find John's stuff, racingwatch.com.au, if you're looking for a Sydney-centric service, or a New South Wales-centric service, I should say, which is essentially a 7-day-week service. John puts a lot of hard work into getting the results for his clients. And of course, you can find me at ratingstowin.com.au or on Twitter. And as you can, John, anything you want to know about our database, if you're looking at something new that we've done, John, is just develop a Hong Kong only database for people who want to concentrate on that jurisdiction. So get in touch. Let us know what your thoughts are too. If you think that we can do anything better on the show, punters, let us know. Feel free. Send emails. You can email me at paul@ratingstowin.com.au. If you've got any particular emails, even if it's just not questions or just issues you want to raise on each week's show, then feel free to do that as well. And we'll catch you on Thursday for the preview for Saturday's Lightning. I think it's the Hobartville, Millie Fox, and something else in Sydney. I can't remember what it is, but we'll get to that.
It'll come around too quick. That's all I know. It never stops. We'll be there.
Thanks again, guys.
Thanks.